Hi, it's Wendy with Command the Courtroom, and today I have Stephanie Shaw. Stephanie is a health and wellness strategist who helps divorced executives lose weight and find confidence. Stephanie helps these women peel back the layers of the intricate health puzzle down to the DNA and shows them precisely what to do to build a lasting lifestyle of confidence, energy, and love for, I'm thinking it says for themselves, it's cut off. Help me fill in the blanks and welcome, Stephanie.
Oh, thank you so much, Wendy. It's been a hard time for us trying to connect here. Like I've had power issues today, but this is going to be so awesome. I am so glad to be here. And you're right. I help women get to the root cause of what is going on so that they can lose weight, feel better, have more confidence, and they can start sleeping at night and have less stress. So yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, so talking about, let's start off talking about
All right.
sleep. So
Okay.
so divorce is stressful.
Yes. Yes.
And so, well, first of all, why don't you tell me how you got into helping divorced women, but then also talk about the impact of divorce on the most basic human need, which is sleep, or
Yeah.
one of them.
Yeah, so it was, I didn't originally go after that niche, I'll be honest, but all the women that started coming to me and they happened to be divorced. I'm like, okay, this is where these are the women that are gravitating to me. And I think part of it is because when you're going through that divorce, there's all this sense of loss of control. You may be losing control around how you parent your kids because they're, being parented one week this way and one week in your home another way. A loss of control around finances. So being able to control what you put in your body and how you start to take care of your body, that's something you can do. So I think that's part of the reason why the women have been attracted to me. And on top of that, I do a lot of work around mindset. So that mindset helps you get in the frame of mind so you understand the behavior patterns that may have led to you gaining a few extra pounds or having that brain fog or that low energy, or as you alluded to, that lack of sleep, because that is so huge. I think the lack of sleep comes from a couple of different things. One, stress. So our cortisol levels are high. We often don't recognize that if our body is on all the time and going through a situation like a divorce, you're always on. You're anxious about things, you are unsure and maybe questioning. So having your cortisol level always being at that high level does impact your sleep. So that's one thing.
Mhm.
Maybe maybe not eating the way you're normally eating or rushing to get something quick because you're so busy now. You're now handling a lot of things on your own. That can impact your sleep. So thinking about all of those things and then starting to implement healthier foods, more whole foods, different things like even essential oils, like lavender and things like
Mhm.
that we use. So, and meditation and mindset. All of those strategies are part of the work that I do to help people get back on course. And as you said, to help with that answer of why can't I sleep at night?
Oh, and that is so helpful to me. And so I want to share something interesting that's happened to me. So for I think at least a year, I've been having a hard time sleeping. And I will tell you, I'm 50. I'm going through menopause right
Mm-hmm.
now.
Mm-hmm.
And I have had the most difficult time sleeping, but I've been so busy in my work. And these cases are stressful for me too as the attorney.
Right.
But I just had a bunch of trials finish. And I've been sleeping really well for the last 2 weeks. And I'm thinking, what in the hell is going on? I haven't slept this well in years, it feels like. And so now you're helping me put it together that maybe it's like the cortisol levels, like
Yeah.
finally kind of coming down. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, exactly. It's like our adrenal glands start to work and you want that adrenaline rush. So someone's breaking in your house, you're being robbed or something, you want to like be on. But if you're on all the time, court cases, just
Mhm.
life in general, it will impact your sleep, your eating habits, even that sometimes people are like, oh, I just can't get rid of that little extra bulge around the middle of my waist. That can be stress fat as well. So
Oh.
all releasing your cortisol, starting to understand what it takes for you to relax, because for you to relax may be different than what relaxing is to me, but understanding all of that can help your body.
Okay, thank you. So so for, the women, or even there may be men watching this
Mhm.
too who are going through divorce. For anybody who is going through a divorce, it's stressful. And
Mhm.
that stress, especially if it's an ugly divorce, a high conflict divorce, you're dealing with a toxic ex or toxic attorney on the other side. I feel like that those external stresses are going to stay like that, like you said, there's no control over that. So what are some of the things, and I think maybe you alluded to at least one, but what are some of the things that a person can do to help with that cortisol level?
Yeah. So first of all, I do think it's personal in a way. So for example, if someone said to me, in order to release stress, is get your whole family around and have a big dinner party. That would stress me the heck out because I'm thinking, oh, I got to clean, I got to do that.
Ah,
For me, it's being alone. So figure out what helps you to relieve that stress in your body. That's
mhm.
step one. And then start to think about behavioral changes. So things that you recognize what you can't control. Okay, I can't control if his or her attorney comes in and they're yelling and screaming at me. I can't control XYZ. Figure out what you can't control and then start to think about what you plan to do about that. Do I plan to react? Do I plan to just take notes and figure out what my next steps are?
Yeah.
All of those things help your brain to trigger a different thought pattern. Because if you're aggressive back, and a lot of times that cortisol level that rises, and again that impacts your overall health. So just figuring out how, again, have that conversation differently. How are you going to handle conversation? How are you going to show up for yourself versus thinking about how am I going to win or combat the situation.
Got it. Okay, that's great. Great advice, and something I probably need to follow up myself because I deal in conflict all day, almost every day. You'd think I would have learned this by now, but glad I'm
And
talk glad I'm talking to you.
it's so funny how even like in my marriage, I'm like, okay, this is something that we're going at it, going at it. But once I make that decision, like, hey, that's not how I want to show up, or I'm just going to handle it a little differently. My husband started to change too. Like I didn't do anything different. I just
Mhm.
started handling the way that I was showing up so I could be the healthier me. And that impacted our marriage overall. So I think it's a good way to help you with that stress level in your body.
I love it. I love that question. How am I going to show up?
Yeah,
Kind
yeah,
of
exactly.
let that guide you. I feel like people should like post it somewhere, where they can see it.
I know, I hear you. All right. I probably need a tattoo.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. So, what effects long term can stress cause?
Yeah.
You
So
know, if there's a sustained period of stress, I think it's important for our viewers to know how that can affect them, not just like with sleeping tonight, but long term.
long-term stress can be, again, the weight gain, the brain fog, the low energy, but in a bigger sense, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, cancer, all of those prolonged stress in the body, that it shows up in disease. There is a book called The Emotion Code that I just read. And when I
Mm,
read it, I'm like, like you could start to see
uh-huh.
how a stressful incident on the body, even the stress of coming through the birth canal, maybe you have a colicky baby or something like that. Stress
Mhm.
on the body can lead to other diseases and other um, symptoms in your body. So it comes out in a number of different ways. So
Mhm.
handling that can help you with anything else that you have going on in your body or your life.
Okay, got it. All right. So, so a person knows that they're under stress. They
Mhm.
understand they need to start maybe thinking about how they're going to show up and how they're going to respond. What else can they do to manage the emotions, the heavy emotions that go with the divorce? Even if somebody wants a divorce, it's still stressful.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, again, there's a couple of different ways. Going back to the fact of finding out what actually works for you and how you can de-stress, finding an accountability partner or someone you can be angry at and with, just to kind of let that steam get off of you. And then, that they won't feel upset or anything. They know you're just letting off steam. So having someone that it works with you, you can trust and support. And then what I really focuses on is your nutrition. So if you're eating poorly, if you're grabbing the bag of chips, or if you're going through the drive-through all the time, even if it's a what's a new name for a more upscale fast food, fast casual, even something
Oh.
like that, there's a lot of hidden sodium, a lot of hidden sugar, a lot of soy, gluten, things like that that can actually impact your body. So
Mhm.
understanding what foods really support you and support your body are huge in relieving stressors and helping you get through certain situations. What I do with my clients, instead of just saying, hey, eat this, don't eat that, which was done to me, I actually do a DNA analysis, and you alluded to it earlier. So we get a hair sample. We determine what is going on in their body and what they're currently sensitive to. So, like, it may say that you're currently sensitive to avocados. That doesn't mean you're never going to eat it again. You just need to eliminate it at this time. So
Mm.
once you figure out what's all the different things that are triggers in your body as it relates to food, that can also help with the stress. It can also help with the way that you are showing up for your family, for your job, and so forth.
So that, I've never heard of somebody getting a hair sample to determine, like, sensitivities to foods. Like, I hear of it all the time in my cases because somebody's accusing somebody else of doing drugs, like a hair follicle test.
Yes.
So what is the difference? And I know my naturopath gave me a blood test,
Mm-hmm.
and based on the results, she said, I think that you're sensitive to XYZ. What's the difference between the DNA and the blood? Are there benefits to a hair test?
So I think it's so the blood test will test more. It's a deeper
Mm.
test that you can take, and you can find out even more. With the hair test, you can. It really relates more to the. It shows up in the sensitivity. So environmental things, toxins
Mm.
in the environment, nutrients that you may be missing from your body, or you may have too many of. Maybe you're every day you're taking 12 vitamin C's because you don't want to get a cold or something. So something like that may show up. And then foods that you're sensitive to. A lot of times the blood test will go a little deeper and be able to find some disease and so forth that's going on in the body. But the,
Oh.
the hair test will get you the results that you need in order for you to start eating according to what your body is currently telling you that it wants, needs, or that it has too much of, or just doesn't like at this time.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I recently had this realization. I bought from Costco. I don't know if you've ever shopped at Costco, but they have these little appetizers that they're like Italian meats, like prosciutto and something else, and they're wrapped around cheese.
Uh-huh.
So one day I had a few of those, like for a snack. And the next day I woke up feeling horrible and I thought, what's wrong? And I didn't put two and two together until I had those things for a snack again. And I woke up feeling horrible and the next day. And so I realized that I must have an issue with something in those snacks. I don't know if it's the meat, like the sodium or what,
Yeah.
but
It's so smart that you recognize that, because a lot of times people will eat and eat, eat and just feel yucky and not even think about it's something that I ate. And when you start to do things like you did, hey, I had this day, I'm having it again, I'm having the same reaction. That's how you can start to weed out some of the things that aren't currently working for you. And it may have been because prosciutto is processed, or the cheese may have been processed. So it may have been some other chemical reaction. But the hair analysis helps us kind of get to that answer a little faster than us doing that digging on our own.
got it. Okay. All right. So when somebody, over their whole life has ate things that may not be best for their body, and then they're stressed out, and there's a certain amount of, and I don't know what the right word is, perhaps damage that's been caused to the body
Mm-hmm.
because of these different factors, environmental toxins and things like that. Is it possible to undo that?
Oh, 100%. So my story, I went to in 2017, I was in New Orleans walking down toward Bourbon Street. I got really sick. Felt like I was either having a heart attack or stroke. And that began a 2-year process of trying to discover what was wrong with me. So I went to 18 different doctors, 2 world renowned medical facilities. And I finally found a naturopath who was also a chiropractor in like 2,000 miles away from me. But I found someone that actually listened to what was going on in my body. And he gave me a 2-pager, kind of eat this, don't eat that. I go a lot deeper with my clients because that's kind of something that I missed from him.
Mhm.
But I had for 50 years been eating a certain way. For at that time, think I was like 48 maybe. So I had been eating a certain way all that time. I was vegetarian, but I wasn't doing it the right way. I wasn't eating balanced. It took a while. It took a good year plus in order for me to feel like, woo, 100%. But almost immediately when I start to stick to it, I start to feel some immediate change. Like my gut started to feel better. I was less bloated. I had less gas on my stomach. All these
Mhm.
things started to happen quickly. But to get to that end result, it took a little longer because I'd been eating bad for so long.
Right.
So yeah, it's different for everyone, but I will say that yes, if you're following the plan and the plan is not like something restrictive, it's just like eating no processed food. It's just eating differently. You can get the results that you need, and the time frame is just a little different for everyone.
Okay, got it. All right. I mean, that's encouraging for
Yeah.
people because I know when I grew up, I loved how my mother cooked, but we had a lot of Mexican food, a lot of cheesy dishes, and lots of red meat, and so how this is a challenge that I think probably a lot of people face, and that is, well, I know that gluten's not that doesn't agree with me, for example,
Mhm.
but oh my God, I love bread, or I love cheese, or I love, that latte with the milk in it.
Yeah.
Do you have any
Had
ideas
a
for?
little moment there. You're like, woo.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Yeah. How can people? It's hard because people feel like they're depriving themselves, I think.
So I'm the queen of substitution. So first of all, I come from a soul food background. So, fried chicken, fried pork chops smothered in gravy with a little bit of,
Mm.
sweet apples on top,
Mm.
chitlins, greens
Yeah.
with pork in them. So it's all about making adjustments. And based on your culture, based on whatever you're used to, that's how I make adjustments for my clients. So let's say if it was someone with my cultural background, so instead of having like the collard greens with the pork in them, use vegetable broth, use more
Mhm.
seasoning. If you have dairy, there's tons of good plant-based things that don't have soy in them, butter, yogurt, so forth. You like chips, you can make kale chips and use nutritional yeast and smoked paprika. That makes a Dorito.
Oh.
You like
Oh.
cheese, cashews, you can grind up your cashews and put some garlic salt and salt in it. That replaces your Parmesan cheese. So there's tons and tons of ways to use plant-based, even chickpeas. The liquid in the chickpeas aquafaba replaces an egg. So there's tons of ways to use plant-based food so that you don't have to feel deprived. And if you're at your family, if you're having that dinner with your family, you don't have to not eat those things. You just don't need to fill your plate like you would before and just eat a more moderate amount so you don't feel deprived. I hate when people tell me I have to not eat something
Of
that I
course.
love.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. I agree. It's like moderation. It's about moderation. And
exactly.
exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about hormones.
Hmm.
And I know we already talked about one. I think cortisol is a hormone, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yep.
So what about the other hormones that affect, stress levels and or just physical health? Especially when somebody is going through a stressful event like a divorce or separation or a custody battle. What can they do about hormones, if anything?
Yeah. So again, it's back to eating differently can help manage those hormones. So your thyroid, leptin, insulin, estrogen, cortisol, all of those are different hormones that impact your weight and can impact your stress levels. So for example, leptin, it's when your body is healthy and operating as it should. Leptin actually signals the body telling you that it's full. But you can trick leptin so it can stop. After a while, you're like, oh, I keep eating and eating and I never get full. That's because you tricked leptin in your body. And so it no longer signals to your brain that you're full. So what you have
Mm.
to do is start to reset your body, and doing that reset is around eating differently. So that's one of the hormones that can be impacted.
Oh, got it. Okay. I mean, yeah, it seems like there's a lot that people can learn from working with you,
Mhm.
just about the nutrition, the hormones, and the self care. I want to talk about self care because I think this is huge, and especially women in general. I think they are such caretakers and such, they like to serve and take care of people that a lot of times they're last on the list. And especially through divorce, people are juggling managing the court case, managing the kids, if kids are in therapy, if
Mhm.
you're in therapy, like, so what are your practices and how do people work this in?
Mhm. So I'm so happy you said that, Wendy. So I always tell on myself that I had a high stress corporate job, and I really thought self care was selfish. Like, I would look at women who were doing self care. I'm like, how are they having time for that? Why shouldn't they should be doing this? They should be doing that. And never really recognize the fact that you can't help others until you start taking care of yourself. Like, I don't know why that never clicked in my brain. It didn't. So self care, I think, is a huge part of how to successfully get better health, how to mentally and physically get to better health. I tell people, again, I always put it back to what is going to work for you, because if I tell you self care is XYZ and it's something that stresses you out, then it's
Mhm.
not going to work for you. So I
Yeah.
customize it to my clients. So I had
Mm.
a client who she's only 5 minutes from her house. She's president of a company. She has clients to deal with. She has three small kids. She's divorced. And so one of our cortisol, I call it cortisol resets, was she, instead of taking 5 minutes to get home, just take an extra five. Like, if she lives straight down the street, go around the long way and take some time to yourself. Either you pump your music loud or you drive in silence, just something in order to reset your body so that
Mhm.
you can start to think differently.
Mhm.
I believe in forest bathing. So if you're just, if you live anywhere near nature or woods, going out into nature, touching
Mhm.
the bark, looking at the plants and stuff, it to me, and the old me, that would be like, oh, that's so woo. But yeah, that's kind of woo woo. But
Yeah.
I kid you not, that is so impactful on how you can actually feel your body get this sense of relief when you're out in nature,
Mhm.
grounding yourself, just standing on outside on the grass, or grounding yourself in your home. And the one thing that I think a lot of us forget to do is breathe.
Mm.
So,
Mhm.
it's so natural that you're just breathing, but just think if you actually paused and maybe took 4 breaths in, hold it for about 5 seconds, and then take 6 or 7 breaths out slowly. Your mind just starts to readjust to that situation. You start to recognize your breath, and it immediately starts to calm the body down. So I think those are just some ways that people can find that they can leverage something natural, something free, something they may already be doing, and then
Yeah.
use it to change their mindset and to settle their hormones.
Okay. And what are the benefits that a person can see, by getting these different things into check, so to speak?
Yeah. So for me personally, it was so I could not lose that. Like, I looked like I was like 4 or 5 months pregnant all the time. The lowering the stress and eating differently, more balanced meal, keeping my metabolism straight, working on inflammation and my hormones, which are the pillars of the work that I do. I started to find that I could, every once in a while I can eat a pizza or whatever I want, and I don't get the bloating because I have my gut in check. So you can find that, the weight will come off, you'll sleep better, you'll be more relaxed. I think and we've said it a couple of times, but how you show up, I think, becomes a lot different too. That sense of anger or that sense of stress and anxiety starts to go away when you start to eat differently. You take time for yourself. So putting your own oxygen mask on first, taking time and I'm not talking about 3 hours a day you need to be in a corner meditating, but like 5, 10 minutes a day, setting a timer. My time is usually 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Ring time goes off. Sometimes I have 60 seconds to do something. Sometimes I have 30 minutes. Setting that timer so that you're more mindful that, this time every day, I'm going to set aside and do something for me. And again, it can be 30 seconds. So I think building on all those different layers helps you get to the place where you want to be. And then you start to really show up for your kids and for yourself and for your job. It changes your whole outcome. It changes the outcome of how you're feeling.
I believe it. And I like what you said about, sometimes you're just going to have 30 seconds. Because I will tell you, I find myself often saying, well, I only have like a minute between appointments or 5 minutes between appointments. That's not enough time to do anything really, except look at Facebook, or whatever. But I hear you saying that it really doesn't matter if you just have a few minutes.
Yeah, it's so today that's what I had. Like, I don't even think I had 30 seconds, but I'm like, it's 11 o'clock. Let me do something. So like I breathe real quick. I'm like, okay, I got to get back to work. But it was enough to kind of like jar me. So I just start to feel like I was showing up differently. And then again, some days I'm like, okay, I need to take like an entire hour because it's just that bad. But don't you're just adding another layer of stress if you're saying from 11 to 11:05 every single day I need to do XYZ. I
Yeah.
think this adds stress. Just give yourself the freedom to do what you need to do and what you can do during that certain period of time. And it doesn't have to be every day, and it doesn't have to be at a certain time, but just give yourself that freedom to implement.
Okay. And I think you're alluding to this a little bit, and I'm wondering if you can speak on it a bit, is just this idea of having compassion for yourself.
Yeah, that's huge. I had no compassion for myself whatsoever. I always thought that I had to be everywhere, do everything, and so forth. And
Mhm.
having compassion for yourself is huge. And so back to the like, how else can this impact you? If you're having compassion for yourself, nourishing your body, nourishing your mind, that is what's going to keep you out of the cancer, the type 2 diabetes, the heart disease. All some things are hereditary, and I'm not saying don't go to the doctor, but if you can do preventative measures, so either it's prolonged and or never happens, these are the types of things that I honestly believe are going to help you long term and help you continue to show up.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love it. I love it. And I think again for women, a lot of women, myself included, having that, giving yourself grace.
Mm,
It's a hard thing to do between, just running around and kids and taking care of our partners and making sure the shopping's done and the work's done. It gets hard.
it is. It's very hard, but I think it's the most. I was going through my like the protocol with someone, and we got to the mindset part, and I'm like, but in all honesty, until I started to implement the mindset part, yeah, I lost a few pounds and I felt a little bit better. But that mindset part, giving myself grace, taking care of myself, all of that, that was like the cherry on top.
Yep.
That's when it really started tasting and feeling good.
Got it. Okay. And so, and like one last question, hopefully, not hopefully, but maybe. Uh, uh, I, after a lifetime, and I think like this idea of like scurrying around and trying to take care of everybody and everything is probably, it's passed down.
Mhm.
I know that I'm the way I am because I saw my mother doing that. And I know from my grandmother did that. So it's just, so how do we break out of that? Because it's so easy to fall back into that pattern that has been, we've been observing in generations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm still figuring that out. I'll be
Yeah.
honest with you, Wendy. But it's a process. Sometimes it's a week by week, sometimes it's a day by day, sometimes
Yeah.
it's an hour by hour process of or a lot of times I'll think of how sick I was. Like I would work for my normal 8 to 10 hours per day. Then I would come home and I'd have to stay in the bed until it was time to get up and go back to work the next day. So
Oh,
it was that bad. And so I know in my mind that I never want to go back there. So that works for me. Like, I don't want to go back there. So I'm going to do my little meditation, my yoga. I'm going to, eat right about 80, 85% of the time. So maybe finding that one thing for you, that one thing that, hey, I don't want to end up, and I hate to say end up like our parents, because that's not a good thing, because my
yeah.
parents were awesome. I'm sure your
Mine too.
parents are
Mine too.
awesome.
Totally.
Yeah, but I don't want to I don't want to leave that same legacy of not taking care of myself to on myself and or to my kids. Think about what that one thing is and let that be what
Mm-hmm.
drives you to move
Mm-hmm.
forward. So I don't want, I probably left it for my kids because I didn't get it early enough and my kids are like adults, but I'm in grandma stage now.
Yeah.
So like I'm like consciously thinking like, oh, I didn't do this all the time and this may impact the baby in a different way. This is what I'm going to do now. So, whatever stage you're in, start thinking about where you can make that impact and then think about what for you works in order to make you show up for yourself.
That's great advice. And I was just having a conversation with my husband this morning because we have a daughter, she's 10. And so I am very type A. I was a firstborn, only girl. And, I've always tried to be perfect,
Me too.
and I know. And
Mhm.
so what I've seen in my daughter at different times, including this morning. We had a rough
Mhm.
morning, but she wants to get things perfect and she freaks out. She's like, "Oh my God, this isn't perfect. It has to be perfect, blah, blah, blah." And I asked my husband, "Where does she get that from?" Like, I know she gets it from me, but I'm not sitting here saying, "I need to be perfect." Like, it's not perfect. I don't say it out loud,
Right.
but she's, I guess, watching it,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah. So yeah, being able to you that was a perfect example of being able to show that example of what you know is best for your child, even if you have to do it a little overboard. You know what I mean? Showing that perfection is not the way, or
Mhm.
showing them that X, Y, the way that maybe we're eating needs to change, and but not taking it to the extreme, but doing slowly implementing those things because the kids are watching. And what's so bad now is even though we had our set of influences, you think they have so many more because of social media. So
Mhm.
what we may have thought was normal, quote unquote perfection, I'm going to say normal because I
Yeah.
I want us to be normal because I'm type A as well.
Yeah.
But what we may have thought of that at one level, they're stressed with an entirely different level of all these people looking at them all the time. So yeah, I'll pray for you because I would not want to have a teenage daughter or
I
preteen at this
I know.
time. Yeah.
I know. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Well, so you're talking about each of us has to find that thing. Like for you, it's like you don't want to go back to feeling how you were. And
Mm-hmm.
I think I've just found my thing, which is I don't want a daughter
Mm,
who experiences more stress than she needs to, like maybe the kind of stress that I've created in my life because
right.
of whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you. And
Yeah.
then again, things that I've done that I wished I didn't, but too late, all said and done. But how am I
Yeah.
going to help the next generation in my situation? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, we're always learning and growing,
We
and that's why we're here, right?
Yeah, and that's grace as well. We're
Yeah.
just talking about giving ourselves grace. That's grace as well. We're always learning. We don't have to, and nor will we get it perfect because we're not created to be perfect beings. But giving ourselves grace to know, hey, I kind of need to make some adjustments here. All right, make the adjustments and keep it moving, and not being ourselves up for it. I think that's huge.
Yes, so big. So
Yeah.
Stephanie, so tell us how, you can help
Yes.
people, women, divorced women, and how they can find you and what you have to offer.
Yeah, of course. So I work with executive divorce women who want to lose weight and gain more confidence. And again, we do that by peeling back the layers down to the DNA so that they can discover what is going to help them lose the weight, sleep better, and have more energy. We work together for 4 months, and during that time, we go through a series of modules that are customized modules that are going to help them get to where they need to go. So that's how I work with women, and they can find me. Social media, Facebook, Instagram, and my website are all Lee and Ollie, and that's Leigh and Ollie, Ollie. So leeandollie.com.
Awesome, Stephanie. Thank you. And we'll post the links to everything when this interview is live. And it's been great. And I know it's going to help me. It's going to help a lot of other people, women out there. And please feel free to reach out to Stephanie if you feel like she could support you. And thank you so much, Stephanie.
No, thank you so much.
All right, everybody. So if you like this video, be sure and give it a thumbs up. Hit subscribe also if you want to hear more interviews. And I'll be back again with another great guest. Until then, remember to keep on trucking and get out there and command the courtroom. See you next time.